Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, live on CBS Sports Network. Our midday game on Saturday features the SEC runner-up, the Texas Longhorns, going up against the ACC champions, the Clemson Tigers. Now, the Tigers needed Miami to blow a 21-0 lead to even make it into the ACC title game, and then a 56-yard walk-off field goal to win the ACC title game and arrive here. And they face a Texas team that is very frustrated. Now, watching the way that things went in an overtime defeat to the Georgia Bulldogs. So, Tom, when we look at the Texas side of things, how are you looking at Texas to try to attack Clemson in this matchup?
I mean, I think if you see what Clemson has done this season, they've been very up and down, particularly on offense. Like when they've played better defenses, they have struggled. When they've played bad defenses, they've stunted all over them and scored a whole bunch of points. But either way, they're typically relying on Cade Klubnick to do most of the damage for them. As a runner, he's really kind of taken a step forward and done a lot of damage. So if I'm Texas defensively, if I want to stop this Clemson offense, I'm just trying to stop Cade Klubnick. I'm going to try to keep him in the pocket, and when he gets out of the pocket, I'm dedicating my guys to chasing him down and making the tackle before he get an explosive play or extend the drives. And I'm saying, all right, Cade, stay in the pocket and beat me with your arm, with your receivers, because go ahead, try to name a Clemson receiver. You can't. Nobody can. Nobody's seen them all year. So when I look at that situation defensively, that's my game plan. On offense, I'm just trying not to make too many mistakes. I think defensively, the Tigers are solid. They're not elite. I think that, you look at their defensive line, it is still good, but it is not the kind of defensive line we have seen Clemson have in years past. So even with my running game struggling all year due to injuries, I'm trying to establish the run. I'm trying to lighten the load on Quinn Ewers as much as I possibly can, because as we've talked about at length, Quinn is not at 100%. And I don't think you want to put too much on his plate. I think you want to make things easier on him, maybe a little play action, some short throws, and then scheme up some big plays, hopefully, that you can hit. But I think overall, if I'm Texas, I look at this game, Clemson, they've got that team of destiny vibe going, Chip. You mentioned the things that they needed to happen to get here, and they got them. But I just don't think they quite measure up overall to this Texas roster. So it's a very simple game plan for me. Force them to do what they're not comfortable doing. And then myself, I'm just going to do what I'm good at and try to limit my mistakes, and I should win this game.
Am I crazy to think that Cade Klubnick is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this postseason tournament?
Yes. Yes, you're insane.
All right, this is all right, yeah, exactly. So let's slow down and hear me out, because I think there is a clear-cut number one. It's Dylan Gabriel, right, of quarterbacks that you trust the most. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of a bunch of dudes. And if you look at Cade Klubnick, who does have 33 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions through the air, 33 passing touchdowns, I think he has been one of the more trustworthy playmaking quarterbacks. Now, you could say, who's he done it against? It hasn't been great. But even against South Carolina, a defense that gave a lot of SEC quarterbacks trouble, he still threw pretty well against them and had 2 rushing touchdowns, and his only interception was on that batted ball in the last play of the game, which was really bad. And I would say the emergence of Wesco and TJ Moore, a couple of freshman wide receivers, is one reason to maybe say maybe Clemson is getting right at the right time. So I think Cade Klubnick is one of the better quarterbacks out there, which makes this dangerous. Now, if it was a healthy Quinn Ewers versus a healthy Cade Klubnick, I would say I'd give the edge to Quinn Ewers. But the version of Quinn Ewers we've seen lately has not been the same as we've seen him at his peak.
So let's talk quarterbacks, but on the other side, which quarterbacks has Clemson seen recently? So Kevin Jennings tore him up pretty good for SMU. He's solid. South Carolina's quarterback, who's not a great thrower, had an okay day and went off with his legs pretty hard. Citadel, don't know the quarterback's name there. We'll pass that one. They got Pitt when Pitt was really dinged up, right? They got Virginia Tech when Kyron Drones was really dinged up. Tyler Shuck for Louisville tore him up. Then Virginia doesn't have a quarterback. Wake Forest this year, quarterback was kind of iffy. They got Florida State, which definitely didn't have a quarterback. Sorry, Danny, and myself, sorry as well. And they got Stanford's backup. So really, since that last week of September, they have played 2 decent quarterbacks in Tyler Shuck and Kevin Jennings, and both those guys tore him up pretty good. So I am a little bit worried about Clemson's defense, but I'm mainly worried about Clemson tackling Texas. If Bond's not going to play in round 1, we know what this is going to be from Sark. They're going to try to get Wisner going in the run game like they did against Texas A&M, but a lot of it's going to be Can you get the Clemson secondary to miscommunicate stuff so you can create wide open looks? Will Clemson tackle the Texas skill players in space as well as Georgia did? Because Georgia has shut that stuff down now twice because their DBs are way more physical than the short guys that Texas runs out their receiver when they try to block some of those screens on the outside. I think Georgia was really intentional about how they played that. I don't know if Clemson's DBs can be physical enough to do so. But if they can, the Clemson can win this ballgame. Texas doesn't have a lot of counters this year.
There have been 6 games that Cade Klubnick has played against SEC opponents. Does anyone know how many touchdown passes Cade Klubnick has in those 6 games against SEC opponents?
I'm sure it's been a whole lot because he is the top 3 quarterback in the playoff. Yeah.
0. This is what I can't get by. I can't get by what happened on Labor Day weekend. And I know that Texas's defensive front has bodies on bodies on bodies. They've got guys on the interior that can push a center into your lap. They've got edge rushers who can come out and come screaming from behind you and maybe even knock the ball away. Like I think that we're going to know really early on whether Texas has a chance to hang inside this game. Whether Clemson has a chance to hang in this game. Heck, to even hang inside this number, which we have now seen start to drift all the way out to 12 and 12.5. If Clemson, which has had an offensive line that has dealt with a lot of injuries all throughout the season, if they've got a good plan to either get the blocks done or neutralize them with your game planning and your play calling, but from offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, well then, yes, I don't trust Quinn Ewers. I don't trust Texas's offense. If Texas plays down, that's when we start to get into Team of Destiny, Mr. Cade Klubnick 50-yard touchdown with a minute remaining to save Clemson's season type stuff. But that is something that I am very concerned about because what Cade Klubnick does against Virginia and Stanford and Wake Forest and App State is not the same as what happens when he goes up against those athletically gifted and different defensive fronts. So it is Bud was talking about the Ohio State-Tennessee game. You'll be able to tell based on early downs the way a drive is going to go. But it kind of seems to me like we might be able to tell very early on what to expect from Clemson in this matchup.
All right, well, let's play a quick game, fast on OSTV. What's the competent passing game that Texas has seen not named Georgia? Colorado State, Michigan, UTSA, UL Monroe, Mississippi State with the backup quarterback, I should add. Oklahoma with the backup. Georgia, so that we don't count that one. Vandy, Florida with the third stringer. Arkansas with Taylor Green, who was dinged up. Kentucky with the backup. Texas A&M, and that was Reed, not Wegman. And then Georgia again. Is it possible that Texas has only seen one decent to a good passing game, and that was Georgia? And remember, the second half of Georgia, Carson Beck got hurt and didn't play. I even if you don't love Cade, there's a really good chance that Clemson is by far the second best passing team that Texas has seen all season. And I think actually down the stretch, their passing game was better than Georgia's. So,
I'd agree.
I mean, there is some chance that Texas secondary, it could be ripe to get exposed here if Clemson can block it up. But I don't know they can't.
You know what concerns me? Clemson's rush defense, 14th in the ACC. They have not been great against some of the more physical teams. That's what concerns me. We were talking about Sark, wants to lean on him. Kelvin Banks, he's back, right? Like, they don't have Isaiah Bond. They don't have some of their weapons. Quinn's been banged up. This is a game where maybe we don't see Sark get in his bag and try to get, all these big plays down the field. Maybe they see them lean on Clemson's defense if Clemson can't get off the field against the run.
That's so huge here. They've got Clemson's got good pass rushers, but you are spot on with that run defense. And you've got to do a good job against the run on first and second down to be able to set up that scenario where TJ Parker can pin his ears back and try to get after the quarterback. Great call. Coming up on the other side, we will look at the first game of Saturday when it comes to the first round action. SMU traveling up to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. We'll take you inside the matchup and more next.